Good morning. This is the Simply Sell podcast, and we have Ryan from Aaron Overhead Door, as well as numerous other companies that this great entrepreneur has started. So I'd like to welcome Ryan to the Simply Sell podcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's always good anytime you and I can catch up.
Absolutely. I've been on your podcast, and now you're on mine. So how
Yeah,
about that?
it's pretty awesome.
So Ryan, you're a true entrepreneur. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because you're in the garage door industry as well as others, but you've not always been there in that industry. So kind of give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, I was the kid who struggled through school, dropped out, ran around, got in a bunch of trouble, changed my life around, and got focused. I wanted to do something great, but failed to have the focus and didn't fit in the box growing up that everybody else did. And I started in sales at a very early age, legally, and like 19, 20 years old at a car dealership. And then from there, just kind of moved my way up into the automotive world and eventually just got tired of working the hours, 7 days a week, 12-hour days, just drain you. Like you make really good money, but you don't even have time to spend it. So it's not really worth it in my opinion. So I went into the vendor side where I was B2B, and this was my first B2B experience, and got into software and really enjoyed that. We grew the company from under $1 million in revenue from the time I joined to over 20 something million. I think almost all of that being recurring revenue. And then they sold the company. HR came down and was like, "Hey, we don't see your education on your resume." So that was a short-lived experience. They found some ways to let me go. And so I started a garage door company, which was completely outside of my expertise. My expertise is sales and marketing my entire life. And I had to learn the name of tools and everything. Like it was brand new to me. But I had a buddy in California who owned a garage door company, and I flew out there for a week, trained with him, came back and launched. And I loved driving around to different people's houses and meeting people and helping them solve problems that were, an inconvenience to them in their life. And so, I don't know, just the idea of getting dirty, doing something different, not sitting behind a desk all day really excited me. And then a few years later, I got into starting a marketing agency because I couldn't find an agency that could help me. And then fast forward, I started a podcast as well that same year called Torsion Talk Podcast, where we do content for garage door business owners. And then I launched Garage Door U, which is a mastermind in 2021. And that group is about 40, 45 strong, where we have business owners of garage door companies all over the country, where we meet weekly. We do events, trainings, coaching, whatever. And then in November 2025, we purchased another garage door company called Perimeter Garage Doors. And now I'm committed to not starting anything else. So I think we've gotten to the point where I'm maxed out. I don't run the businesses, which is great because I don't think I could, but I do. I am very involved, I guess is probably the best way to explain it.
Interesting. Okay. So you've got a background in marketing. So this podcast is really about how marketing and sales should work together. So kind of give us a little bit of background in what you see as far as how marketing and sales should work together. Sales and marketing are different,
Yeah,
but yet they're still kind of connected.
for sure. With sales, I think a lot of people depreciate all the skill that goes into it. And I'm not sure a lot of people appreciate it at all. But when I started in the automotive industry, I was great with people. I could get people to love whatever vehicle I was trying to sell or products I was trying to sell. But there's like salespeople have to be good at every stage. First impression, building rapport, product knowledge, finding value, finding the pain, like everything. Closing is probably one of the things I think salespeople really don't put enough effort in, overcoming objections, closing, all that. So being in the car industry, I got trained that a lot. Marketing also very complicated, especially in the landscape today with AI and SEO and everything changing so much. Even AdWords is changing so much. Google's losing a little bit of market share. I think they were at 93, 94, maybe 96 just a few years ago. Now reported that they're down to like 90% market share, which is pretty significant when you talk about 1% being like, God knows how many searches, which is massive. I think marketing's changed so much that the two are converging a little bit. The people or companies that are doing brand related marketing and social media marketing make it so much easier for the salespeople, because people can become fans or friends to a degree where they feel like they know you before they even call you because of your marketing. And that is the goal of every marketer, in my opinion. You want to create reputation, you want to create personality, you want to create brand. And then if you hook people with your content that way, the sales team, it should be a layup. And that's not easily done. You got to get everybody bought in and on the same page. The time and effort it takes to create great content, I think, is really difficult, and to coordinate it and to know what to do. But I think the two converge if you have everybody on the same page between the sales and marketing and then that content creation.
So that's very true. And, sales and really involves that closing piece. And it also involves that qualifying piece, because you can't close without qualifying. And marketing is basically getting that brand awareness to make it easy for sales. So I see where you're going with that.
And nobody feels
So
bad about salespeople, just so we're on the same page. We always want to say, salespeople are always complaining about not having enough leads, and marketing people are always complaining about, salespeople not closing and creating the ROI and doing their job. It's always fun going back and forth. So I know marketing people want to just drive leads and do their job, but ultimately, like you said, I think great marketers do their best to not just create a lead, but create a warm lead that allows for the salesperson to start at the relationship part where the rapport is almost already built.
absolutely. So, as we've discussed, you're a business owner in the garage industry, and you strive to provide meaningful, different experience for your clients, because obviously, most people, when they think of a garage door, they're like, oh, it's a commodity or whatever. But
Yep.
until the garage door breaks and you can't get in and out of your house, especially if your car is in the garage and you
Yeah.
can't go anywhere. So how do you use marketing to differentiate yourself from the other players? I know you're really good at it, but I'd like the audience to hear this.
Yeah. I mean, I wish there was some magic juice there. I think the biggest issue is, when you're in an emergency situation, it's low hanging fruit for all garage door companies. So being at the top of Google is really important. So our ad approach, our GBP, Google Business Profile approach, reputation, and organic. Like, we want to show up 4 to 5 times on every major search in our service area as much as humanly possible. Google page 1 is the most prestigious land in the world, in my opinion. So if you can get multiple houses on the same street, which is page 1, then that should be the goal. And so, like, if we can get in local service ads, we can get in Google ads, we can get in Google Business Profile, we can show up with our videos in organic, we can show up in FAQs with our schema markup, and we can do all that. We can have a social presence. Google mentions in multiple things, probably more in e-commerce, but also relevant with home services or whatever business you're in, that most people need to see your brand 8 to 10 times before choosing you. And so brand awareness, I think, happens way before the spring breaks. And if you can do a good job of that, when people do officially do that search, I mean, hopefully they just search your name, but let's say they don't, then having that landscape is super important because they're going to recognize your name, your brand, because you've already been where they've been, and they have brand recognition, whether they know it or not.
Interesting. Okay. So, how critical is it for your sales team to sell the brand that you and your marketing team are trying to create? So, I know you're involved with the business, you're not necessarily running it, but I'm sure if you have a sales rep that's not selling the brand, I'm sure it just makes you cringe a little bit, maybe a little bit more than that. But
Yeah, I
I'd be
mean,
curious to see how critical it is for your sales team to sell your brand.
I love the selling the brand, but the differentiating factors are for us. We require every person to be certified. Not many garage door companies in the country do that, and we talk a lot about building value, and our brand awareness and our brand value hopefully has been escalated prior to a salesperson getting involved. But there's people are making decisions based on a couple different things. Do they know, like, and trust the salesperson? Do they know, like, and trust the brand? And there's two very different situations there. You can have a good brand and then maybe two personalities that don't match and still lose the sale. But the key thing is, I think once you have a brand, like, this is the most important thing to me. Like, it no longer becomes about being the cheapest competitor. And I think every business wants to get out of the position where they're competing with people on price every single day. Louis Vuitton does not compete on price. They could care less what their price is, right? I mean, you have all these big brands, and in our industry, we got to be very careful because there's a lot of people like price gouging and charging $3,000-4,000 for a job that mostly costs $500 to $1,000 from a local company. So don't hear what I'm not saying, but at the same time, the phone call is very different from not having a brand to having a trusted brand. And that phone call is, not non-brand, non-reputation is, hey, how much is it to fix this? And a brand and good reputation is, hey, I need one of your service professionals to come out and fix my garage door. And then when we get out there, we have to match the expectations or greater, meaning my guys need to show up like dressed to the tins. Like, I can't have them with holes in their shirts from a welder or whatever, looking nasty, grease to their elbows. They need to have multiple shirts in the car because it's hot here, and we've got to represent. We got to show up in a wrapped vehicle. We have to be presentable. We have to know how to, like, handshake. I mean, we practice everything from eye contact to handshake to customer service to, it's easy for us. I tell my guys all the time, like, we get in the garage and the first thing we want to do is diagnose the door. But the most important diagnosis is finding out what's most important with the homeowner. And so, going through the steps that we've established in our company and being thorough with that, I think is the most critical when it comes to our salespeople representing the brand and doing it right.
Great points. So, how can marketing people help salespeople close deals, not generate leads? I know you touched on it a little earlier, but
Yeah, I
kind of
did get a little ahead.
expand a little bit on
Yeah, I think, I like, I made up a phrase. I don't know if I got this from somewhere, but I think your brand is your reputation or your culture outside your four walls. So many people want to take pictures of garage doors, in our industry and post them on social media, which I think is great. But this is one challenge that we're trying to figure out internally is a system for allowing people to see our personalities behind the scenes. Good, bad, imperfect, or indifferent, doesn't matter. But we have a culture that I think is very special. And part of the challenge that we have is we want to get that out. And so if a salesperson's, if a marketing team's trying to find a way to make it easier for a salesperson, I think it's, you share your culture outside your four walls. That's social media, it's video, it's education. If you are the source of information in your market, then you become a trusted advisor. And then the salespeople now are going in just consulting on that particular person's situation. And it's not so much about selling something, it's about just consulting and guiding the homeowner through that process that was already established through the marketing department. So there's a lot of pressure on both, in my opinion. But if I'm a marketing department, that's what I'm trying to accomplish.
Okay. I like that. So now you've been successful on both fronts, sales and marketing. So which one is harder? Is sales harder or marketing?
Man, if you would have asked me this a few years ago, I would have said sales is harder, hands down, without a question. And I'm probably better at sales than I am at marketing, but I'm pretty good at marketing. Now, I think marketing's more complicated just because everything's changing so fast, right? I mean, even shopping habits are changing fast. The way consumers, or the way my son and I establish a difference between like AI and people, is the way humans are shopping now is very different, right? And as a marketer, we no longer have to even just market for humans. We now have AI being offered by Google in Google search, and recommending one service or multiple services to choose from, and then even giving an option to let an agent call each business and get pricing from them. So now you don't even have an option. So you have this middle ground of like, it's not sales, it's not marketing, but it kind of is sales. It's customer service. It's transparency and content. And so like, there's almost like a little bit of a gap that's getting more broad between sales and marketing, where like the ladies or guys on the phone are having to like be more familiar with the sales process, expectations, being able to provide price quotes over the phone. So to answer your question, a few years ago, definitely sales. Now, I think it's definitely marketing, just because of every week there's major changes that you have to take in consideration when it comes to marketing, whether it's digital or not.
Definitely. I mean, there's a lot more marketing avenues, but sales, yes, you can make minor tweaks to the way that you do it, but you still follow those same principles of qualifying, asking the right questions, providing resources, and then, of course, getting to the position where you can close. So those principles are still in play. So you just have
Agree.
to kind of tweak them a little bit.
Yeah, and practice them, right? Like I think
Mhm.
a lot of times, if you're self-aware and emotionally intelligent people make the greatest salespeople. And I say that because if you're like, for us, if we're in a garage and we're selling a garage door, for example, and we say something and we recognize we get a negative response from someone, or they cross their arms and they step back, or they say, you know what, I want to think about it after you say something. Being able to recognize those things and work on tweaking them and try to identify what you said, how you said it, what was your body like. Self-evaluation, I think, is critical. Not enough people do that, but then also we're not practicing some of the core things that we feel like we're good at. And I think the biggest downfall for salespeople is feeling like they're already good at it and they don't need to get better. And so just because you're the top dog on the board doesn't mean you're going to be there forever, right? So I'm a big believer in just always working to get better at sales, regardless of who you are.
That's a good point. I mean, when I look at myself, how many times have I reinvented myself? Because you have to. You either have to adapt or you're going to fall to the bottom. So, so great points there.
And then
So
you get robotic sometimes and you don't put the enthusiasm into it. You're just going through that process. right? Just because you have a sales process doesn't mean that you should lack enthusiasm, because people feed off the energy that you come with. So that process is only as good as you are bought into it and enthusiastic about it.
Yes, and I am a big believer in that because there's some people that think when it comes to sales, it's all about like process procedure, and I'm going to go from A to B to C to D, and that process is so stiff that if it took a yoga class, it would tear a tendon.
Yeah.
So I think you can go from A to E and then back to B and to D. The most important thing is if you're getting the sale in the right way and both people are satisfied with it. It doesn't
Sales is
matter.
supposed to be fun.
It is. It is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
So and it is.
Yeah. I
So
agree. If you're winning, if you're closing, it's fun.
yeah, if you have had a bad streak, it kind of get a little bit depressing. But
Yeah.
if you still gotta keep pushing.
Yep.
So it's easy to measure the results of your sales team. Either the sales are there or they're not. How do you measure the results of your marketing team then?
This also has changed, in my opinion. I mean, there's always KPIs. We do a lot of digital marketing. I think, it's really difficult right now because in a lot of cases, digital marketing, we're losing clicks. Google's moving more towards AI. Clicks are going down, but in some cases, phone calls are staying steady or going increasing. But you have a 0-click experience a lot of times, and that causes issues. But I mean, when it boils down to it, I think it's leads. For a marketing agency, we should be about opportunities, qualified opportunities, like good ones, not just junk. Anybody can sell lowest price and accomplish getting leads. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, for my company, we focus on high end. So we want high end clientele. And I like to try to measure what's the average price of the homes that we're going to, because if we're trying to target high end clientele, that's a good indicator that we're targeting the right people. I like to, I know they're not fully invested in this, but what's our average ticket? If we go to, I don't mean this in any negative form, there's plenty of people that service all levels, but we really particularly want to focus on high end. That's why we do a lot with interior designers and custom home builders. We do a lot for like local sports athletes and things like that. But if our averages are low because people tell us that they can't afford it, then that's, we're targeting the wrong person or people. Our clientele probably likes to be a little bit proactive, where if we go to their house, they want to change the spring before it breaks. So it's more convenient shopping than it is price based. And so for a marketer, I'm looking for average tickets. I'm looking for leads that come from higher end homeowners, and making sure that we're establishing the direction that we want to go. So it's not all about how many leads we get, but like how many leads are we getting for the people that we're trying to target, and the percentage of that. So I think those things are really important. And then cost of lead is also very important. How much are we spending to get a client? And then like it's kind of out of our hands as a marketing agency to convert. But what I will tell you is the better you target your perfect avatar, and your team is built for that, then the higher your book rate will be and the higher your close rate will be.
Okay. All right. Well, definitely a lot in that answer that you provided. So that's very helpful for us in sales to see how it works, because there's a lot of people in sales that don't value marketing. I'm a big proponent of it. I use marketing on every strategic call that I'm involved with. So great insight there. So what should marketing provide before a salesperson even makes a call? What should they should provide to the salesperson before they even go out on a call?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure of like how this function works um, with my business, but with like B2B, we used to have like sales engineers or pre-sales people. Um, I've always been a fan, like as a salesperson. Like it's funny, right? Because I'll have people reach out to me and they'll say, "Hey, Ryan, looks like you guys are doing great with air and overhead doors, but you could use some additional marketing. Have you considered hiring an SEO company?" Right? So, two things. Number one, you could have taken 5 seconds to look at my LinkedIn profile and see that I own air and overhead doors and a marketing agency. Two, you could scroll down to the bottom of my website and see that I have a marketing agency. And if you would have clicked the link to go to my marketing agency, you would have probably identified that I own it, right? So I think the lack of effort that, I don't know whose responsibility it is. I've always been a prospector, but I love the hunt. I love the challenge. I'm not really dependent on marketing to provide us any information. Might be different in your market, but I'll give you a quick little story that I think is relevant and super important. I got into B2B sales and was in automotive, and then they moved me to try to ramp up multifamily the same. And shortly after that, as a salesperson, we're prospectors, like it's part of our job, right? So you have hunters and gatherers. I was a hunter. And one of the things that I thought was really important was someone told me that there was a group of influencers in the multifamily industry, and they called themselves the Pancake Club. And these were like 5 of the most influential people when it came to like technology and marketing and like just brilliance, right? And so I ended up hunting them down, figuring out who was members, connecting with them on social media. And then at the very first event, the reason why they call themselves the Pancake Club is because at every event, which there's a lot of them in multifamily, they would get together and have breakfast and order pancakes and hang out and discuss things of the industry and trends they're seeing and whatever. Well, I found out through a good source of mine that they were going to a particular restaurant in the hotel. And so I went down ahead of time and I sat there for 2 hours waiting for them to show up. When they showed up, I paid for their pancake breakfast, and then I got a little love from that and got 2 meetings out of the 5. But then after that, I sent them all a plate of realistic looking pancakes that was like really nice. I think it cost me like $200 a piece, and we had it shipped to their houses. And they all personally texted and messaged me and told me how incredible that was, and they love it. And I ended up being able to meet with all of them over the next few months after that. And you're talking about major corporations and decision makers for companies like Graystar, some of the biggest multifamily companies in the country. And so, I think we've got to do a good job as salespeople putting in some of the work. I think we're so concerned about the numbers of how many people we're touching that we're probably burning through good leads by not taking the time to get to know our prospects.
That's a big thing right now. I get calls all the time, and it's for things that I don't even not even involved with. And you can tell that they didn't really do the research on it. Like I sell steel, obviously, but I'm getting calls from transportation people, like thinking that I'm involved with booking trucks or whatever. So,
Yeah.
I think knowing who you're contacting is hugely important. So,
Just do your
and
due
knowing
diligence.
about them, and I,
Yeah, you're never going to get past the gatekeeper on some of these people that I just spoke about. But,
mhm.
if you make an impression somewhere, that could be huge. And I did have a meaningful budget to be able to do certain stuff with, but I was more creative than anything. But I'm a stalker. Like, I'm just going to tell you, like, I'm going to learn what your favorite sports teams are. Like, I'm going to buy you a jersey. I'm going to invest in, I'm going to pick you, and then I'm going to go after you forever. If I want your account bad enough, I'm going to get it, or I'm going to get a restraining order. And I don't mean that in like the crazy way, but it's just, if you're a salesperson, that just should be your personality and your mentality on how you approach things.
Couldn't agree with you more. So engagement is the hardest thing we deal with in sales, and you've got to do whatever you got to do to get that person engaged.
Yep.
So, many companies don't have a formal marketing department. So what are they missing with that?
I love the idea of having like an in-house marketing person or people. What I'll say is a pretty large investment. The benefits of having like a marketing agency is that you can hire a company that has 4 or 5 people with different skill sets. Where if you hire someone in-house, you're most likely getting maybe a couple skill sets, but you have a little bit more control over things, and you can just knock on the door, go into the room next door and say, hey, where are we at with this? Right. It's probably a little bit more convenient, and people know that if they don't do a good job, they're going to get let go, whatever. Same thing with a marketing agency, but I think it's more impactful if you have someone or a group of people in house. And then, I don't do this because I own a marketing agency, but if you have the funds to hire people in house, I like to have that person have as many resources as possible. We work with marketing people at businesses all the time. And in a lot of cases, it works really well because our job is like, hey, how do we help make you look really good? How do we make you super successful? And in the meantime, like, how do we take weight off of your shoulders so that, you can do what you do best? And that relationship works really well for us. So we love that. And then internally, I literally launched my marketing agency because I went through 3 bad agencies that I felt like didn't do a good job in a very short amount of time. They weren't giving me like the action they were taking to improve things. And so from that, I was going to hire somebody, but my accounting person said I didn't have enough money, so I started a marketing agency instead, and it's been very fruitful for us.
Well, good that you didn't have money at that time. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it on your own.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the funnest things I do.
So if sales and marketing sat in the same room tomorrow morning together, what 3 things should they agree on before they leave?
Target audience, messaging, and I would say also they should get on the same page for like if I go, let's say I do a presentation and I don't sell the job. I think that marketing and sales should work together to get that person back into the pipeline or get that person to buy in as short amount of window as possible. Because once you leave that sale and you don't get a signature or you don't get an approval on the first call, time is not your friend. Like it's just not. So whatever you can do after that to decrease the time spent them thinking about it, getting competitive quotes, whatever, I think is critical. And marketing can do a lot of things with that, like retargeting, sending emails, whatever. And then sales can do a good job with just simply following up, making sure they have all the answers and collateral they need to make a good decision.
Okay, good. So as we head into the lightning round here, we're finishing up. Best marketing advice you've ever received.
You're not for everybody.
Okay. Most overrated marketing tactic.
Most overrated marketing tactic. Google AdWords.
Okay. Most underrated marketing tactic.
YouTube Shorts.
LinkedIn or email.
LinkedIn.
Brand awareness or lead generation.
Brand awareness, but only because you don't want to live on lead generation for the rest of your life. And if you do brand awareness well enough, lead generation will be a byproduct and you won't have to pay as much.
Okay. AI tool that you can't live without.
My agent, my AI agent, it can pretty much do just about anything. It's pretty amazing. I don't think I'll ever not use
Awesome.
my agent.
Okay. One thing every salesperson should understand about marketing.
I would say in my case is trust the process and don't be too impatient, because I think a lot of salespeople put pressure on marketing, and then marketing's trying to do their job. Like we're looking at short term, midterm, long term, but a lot of marketing people or companies can try to adjust based on the pressure that they're getting, and then you're financing your future for short term.
Ryan, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. I've learned so much just being on this podcast with you, and look forward to having you on again.
Yeah.
Anything you want to talk about with what you're doing next?
Nah, man, I'm just I'm blessed, and just be thankful to be in here chatting with you, and what an honor it is. So yeah, I'm just grateful. Appreciate you asking me to come on, and I hope there's some nuggets and some takeaways that maybe I've learned along the way that's helped some of the people that listen to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks again, Ryan. Really
Yeah.
appreciate you being on.
Take care.
Take care.